Welcome to Stories of Hope. I'm Christine Hotchkiss. You see, I believe everyone has a story that is unique, just like our fingerprints that put us on the path and the journeys of our lives. Some find purpose. Every story can help, heal, inspire, educate, and I don't care where you're at or who you are, I want to give you hope. And that's what I do here with my Stories of Hope and my guests. Today, we have a treat. We have two guests where they work actually hand in hand. And we'll start out with a little introduction of my first guest, who is Doug Kenney. He was born in Estes Park, Colorado on June 28, 1998, and lives in Arizona. At the age of 4, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. In that time, he had a rough time with education growing up and had dealt with bullying, anxiety, struggling to fit in with others, and depression. Later on, had a meltdown in November of 2010, leading to a 4-week hospitalization. But he found his way back, even though he went through some ups and downs. He met my other guest, Andy McPhee. You might know him from many different movies and shows. He is an Australian film and television actor, often casted as the thug, featured heavily in Kurt Sutter's Sons of Anarchy. So if you have some Sons of Anarchy listeners, watchers, I wish that show was still here. I loved that show. The way that Andy and Doug met is pretty interesting, which actually brought Andy to working with Doug that helped him through his struggles. And they together have a YouTube channel called Relentless and Unstoppable. Please help me welcome my guests, Doug Kenney and Andy McPhee. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. This is going to be different. I'm used to actually recording with one individual. So now we have two, which you guys, I met you a couple weeks back. We were a part of a judging for a Woman of Achievement. We'll give a little shout out, Woman of Achievement pageant. And that is where I met the both of you. And that is where actually, Doug, I learned of your talent, and Andy was one of the judges alongside of me. So I want to actually start with you, Doug. Tell me a little bit more about Asperger's. I know nothing about Asperger's.
Okay. Oh man, where do I begin? I could go for 3 hours. Yeah, Asperger's is a condition. It's a neurological condition where it basically boils down to this. I take a little bit longer to mature than most people. And the symptoms that come with Asperger's are anxiety. I misunderstand others. I have trouble paying attention to things around me. And I also deal with not fitting in a lot of crowds. That's one of the things I dealt with growing up with it, was not fitting in with the people around me.
That actually, I think most of us can feel, to be honest with you, but this is more neurological that makes you feel like you have disabilities. Am I wrong with saying the word disability?
To be honest, a lot of people say that it is a disability, and to an extent it is, but there are some that argue that it's an ability, just a different type of ability, because it does come with good things every now and then. For instance, some autistic people like myself come with a high intelligence level.
So you have autism as well.
Actually, Asperger's is a form of autism.
See, you just educated me on a whole different level. I have two nephews. I have one that is, I want to say he's 13, and I have another one that's getting ready to turn 19, and they both have just drew a blank, autism, and they are on different sides of the spectrum. So now you just taught me another part of what autism really is. And I want to tell you, your guys' minds are always going, correct?
Yeah, I started out not being high functioning with my autism, but I went through the trials that I'll mention in a bit. That I went through trials growing up where I struggled to fit in. I dealt with bullying, and over time it became high functioning.
So what I've learned of the two nephews I have, which are on, like I said, two different sides of the spectrum when it comes to autism, they are still both very high functioning. The brain doesn't shut off. And you guys are, in my opinion, you are very gifted without a doubt.
I appreciate it.
And the things that I have seen you guys be able to do, I wish I could do. And I could see that focus is probably, it could be a good thing and a bad thing for you, someone such as yourself who has autism, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Like there's some pros, but there's also some cons that come with it as well. And I went through a lot growing
So,
up, but autism does not define who I am.
no, it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. You're definitely a gifted individual. Give me some of the signs that you were just talking about, so that some of our listeners who are not aware that I too just now was educated as far as what different levels I'm going to assume is what we should call it as far as autism goes. What are some of the signs
Some of the you mean symptoms?
you want to call it? If you call them symptoms, yeah.
Okay, some of the symptoms that come with autism is hyperactivity, and depression can come with it sometimes, and feeling low, and panic attacks, and high anxiety. And there's also misunderstanding others, and not and having a difficulty with learning. And there's also other things that can come with it is acting on impulse without thinking.
Oh, so there could be a consequence, is what you're saying.
Well, sometimes people like myself, we act without thinking.
Okay. Well, you were doing a lot of the filming at the pageant, and I was very impressed by your attentiveness, and you're very polite, mind you, but you were very gifted while you were doing what you're doing. And I saw you moving around. There were so many moving parts, but I paid attention. I think there was even one point where I was so anxious to get a picture with all the girls that you were talking that I had to learn to wait my turn, and then I made sure that you were okay because I know you were focusing on the conversation you were having with one of the ladies that I was wanting in the picture. I don't know if you remember, but I do because I try to be considerate. And
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that you wouldn't have a misunderstanding that I was like, hey, I just want this picture. And you were so kind about it because you were, at the time you said, no, you were done. And I said, okay. So you taught me something that day too, just so you know.
Good to hear. And that pageant was a lot of fun. I had a blast. Thanks to Andy who invited me.